Rome had survived Nero, but the persecution of Christians had not ended. Another emperor would rise. His name was Domitian, and according to the ancient Christian tradition preserved by Fox, his reign brought another dark chapter of persecution. Domitian ruled from AD 81 to AD 96. He wanted authority, he wanted obedience, and he wanted the Roman world to recognize his greatness. But beneath the splendor of his palace was a ruler whose reign became associated with fear, executions, exile, and confiscation of property. Domitian also demanded extraordinary reverence. He used the language of divinity for himself. He wanted to be treated as Lord and God. And for Christians, that created a dangerous problem, because Christians already had a Lord. His name was Jesus Christ. To the emperor, refusal to participate in the religious order of Rome could look like rebellion. To the Christian, it was faithfulness. That difference could become a death sentence. And slowly, fear began to spread. Fox tells us that Domitian ordered an investigation into people connected with the family line of David. The accusation was terrifying, because David's descendants were connected with the Jewish royal tradition, and Christians proclaimed Jesus as the son of David. The Christians were now living under suspicion. An accusation could destroy a family. An informer could point a finger. A magistrate could demand an oath, and refusing that oath could mean death. Imagine being dragged before a Roman tribunal. The magistrate looks at you. The courtroom becomes silent. Then comes the question, will you swear allegiance to the emperor's religious authority? Or will you confess that Jesus Christ is Lord? The prisoner knows the consequences. One sentence could save his life. Another sentence could destroy it. The magistrate asks again. The Christian answers, I am a Christian. And suddenly, the room changes. There was no negotiation, no appeal, no second chance. According to Fox's account, confessing Christ could bring death, and refusing the required oath could bring death. The trap was designed to make faith itself dangerous. And then came the informers. Some accusations were driven by hatred. Others were driven by greed. A man could accuse his neighbor and hope to profit from his property. For innocent Christians, this was terrifying. A family could lose everything: their home, their possessions, their reputation, their freedom, and perhaps their lives, all because someone decided that accusing them was worth the reward. Fear spread beyond the courtroom. When famine came, Christians could be blamed. When disease appeared, Christians could be blamed. When earthquakes struck, Christians could be blamed. They became convenient targets for the anger of a frightened population. False stories began to circulate. Christians were accused of secret crimes. They were portrayed as enemies of society. Rumors turned ordinary neighbors against one another. And once fear takes control of a crowd, truth becomes very difficult to defend. One of the most remembered victims was Simeon. He was regarded as the bishop of Jerusalem, and according to Christian tradition, he was arrested during the persecution. He was old, but the authorities showed him no mercy. Tradition says Simeon was subjected to torture. He was then sentenced to crucifixion. Think about the cruelty of that moment. An elderly man, forced to endure the same form of execution used against criminals and rebels. The cross was not merely an instrument of death. It was humiliation. It was exposure. It was designed to make the condemned person appear powerless. But Simeon had one thing Rome could not take from him: his confession of Christ. But the story of Domitian's persecution also brings us to another name: John, the beloved disciple, the apostle who had walked with Jesus, the man who had witnessed the crucifixion. Now, he was an old man, and Rome would come for him too. Christian tradition says John was brought before Roman authorities. He was condemned, and according to Tertullian's later account, John was thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil at Rome. But something astonishing was said to have happened. John survived. Whether every detail of that story can be historically verified is another question. But the ancient Christian tradition is clear about something important. John was associated with persecution, and his final destination was Patmos. Patmos was not a palace. It was an island of exile. Rocky, remote, lonely. John had been separated from the churches he loved, but exile would not silence him. According to Christian tradition, it was on Patmos that John received the visions recorded in Revelation. The emperor had sent him into isolation, but isolation became the setting for a message that would outlive the empire. Domitian could control an island. He could control soldiers. He could control prisons. But he could not control the message John carried. And that is the strange irony of persecution. Sometimes, the attempt to silence a witness makes the witness louder. But John